Is Billy Donovan the right coach for this Chicago Bulls team? Feel free to let me know what you guys think in the comments. So let's get straight into it. So, do I believe that Billy Donovan is the right coach for this Chicago Bulls team? I do not think so. All right. Don't get me wrong. Billy Donovan is a great coach. By no means am I saying that he's a terrible coach in any type of way. But the reasoning that I have behind my opinion here is that when you look at the success that Billy Donovan has had in college as well as in the NBA. So, first and foremost, with college, okay, it's a different atmosphere. You're dealing with different players. You're dealing with a lot of kids, a lot of young people, things like that. So, I believe that Billy Donovan's coaching style really fits the college game very well. Now, with the NBA, I think that Billy Donovan is the type of coach that really thrives in a system that is already built. So when Billy Donovan went to the Oklahoma City Thunder to be their coach, they already had Kevin Durant. He was a superstar player. They had Russell Westbrook, superstar player. Serge Ibaka, one of the better role players in the NBA. OKC Thunder, they were a great team already. Two superstars, great role players. That's the roster that Billy Donovan inherited. And you see that he did a great job. He had seasons where he had 50-something wins. I believe that was in 2016 that they went to the NBA Western Conference Finals. So it's not that Billy Donovan is a bad coach because you don't make it to the conference finals. You don't win 50-something games for several seasons because you're a bad coach. You know what I mean? So Billy Donovan is a great coach. It's just that I think that his coaching style fits college, and it can also fit the NBA. But the team that he has to coach already has to be a great team. Like for instance, if Billy Donovan were to coach the OKC Thunder of today, they would still be contenders. They would still be front runner for the championship. Okay, but the issue is this, and I think that it's pretty telling. I think that Billy Donovan kind of said it without saying it in a way. So Billy Donovan, once the OKC Thunder, once they decided, okay, we're going to rebuild. KD is going to the Warriors. Russell, we don't know what we're going to do with Russell Westbrook and all of those things. So when they made it obvious that they were going to be rebuilding, that's not something that Billy Donovan wanted to do. Now, all of his reasons, I don't know. I don't know his personal reasons, his business reasons, his basketball reasons, and things like that. But I think that that's pretty telling, and I think that that lines up with what my opinion is on Billy Donovan. I don't really see him as a coach that you bring to a team to build it up. I think that Billy Donovan is a coach that you bring to your team to already coach a good roster that you already have. Like I say, if Billy Donovan were to be the coach of the OKC Thunder today, or the San Antonio Spurs, or what's another great team? In any contending team out there, he would be a great coach. But this current Chicago Bulls team, as is, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying that Billy Donovan is a bad coach at all. It's just that after what we've seen so far, a lot of seasons where we're winning 41 games, 38 games, only making the play-in. We made the playoffs that one time. But I don't know. I don't think that right now, at least, I don't think that Billy Donovan is that coach for this Bulls team. Even when we were winning a lot of games earlier in the season, I was kind of thinking that, like, okay, I don't know. I don't know how much longer Billy Donovan is really going to last. And then plus, Billy Donovan, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's tied with Eric Spoelstra or maybe Steve Kerr as the most tenured coach in the NBA. So Billy Donovan has been a coach of the Chicago Bulls for the last, 5 to 6 years. Most coaches have been fired, during that time span. So I don't really see Billy Donovan as being in that top tier. like a Steve Kerr or Eric Spoelstra. So I don't know. I don't wish bad on the guy or anything like that, but it's just that I don't see the Bulls hanging on to Billy Donovan for much longer. I think that he could still be a great coach in the NBA, maybe an assistant or maybe a head coach for a contending team in the future. But this Bulls team right now, especially with our current struggles, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. And what I've mentioned in some of my previous videos here is that when you look at the history of the Chicago Bulls in regards to the coaching changes that they make, okay, and the types of coaches. So obviously we have Phil Jackson. We won 6 championships. That's fantastic. Okay, we all know that Phil Jackson was highly philosophical in regards to his approach to the game. All right. Now we get rid of Phil Jackson, and keep in mind that's where we had our most success at. Obviously, we won 6 championships. Okay, but that's the type of coach that the Chicago Bulls seem to thrive under throughout the course of their history, throughout the course of the Chicago Bulls history. Like if you're not a hard-nosed, defensive-minded coach, like a Tom Thibodeau or a Scott Skiles, okay, which that really wasn't what Phil Jackson was, because he had a lot of assistant coaches who were able to do that. But if you're not that type, like that Phil Jackson, Thibs, Scott Skiles type, what I've noticed with the Chicago Bulls, you only go so far. When you look at when we had Vinny Del Negro, Bill Cartwright, Fred Hoiberg, Jim Boylan as the coach, the most games we would win is like 41 games, 39, 41 games, something around there. You look at when we have Scott Skiles. If I'm not mistaken, when we had Scott Skiles, we were coming from being the baby Bulls. If I'm not mistaken, I think that we had one season where we won 50 games, or close to that, 49 games, something in that area. You might want to check me on that one. But we seem to have our most success under coaches like that. And I think that's what the Bulls' next move is. When you look at the talent that this Chicago Bulls team has, you look at all the young players that this team has. And one question that I would pose, and I posed this in my last video as well. Just imagine, and I know it's just a hypothetical, we're just making up stuff here. But just imagine here if this current Chicago Bulls team, as is, instead of having Billy Donovan coach this team, if Thibs was coaching this team, I think that this team would be a lot better than it is right now. Instead of being, what is that? What are we, 10 and 14, 11 and 14, whatever? I think tops, I don't know, maybe we would have only lost like 7 games this season. Maybe 5. I think we'll be kind of close to the top of the Eastern Conference standings. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that. But it just goes to show you how being that type of coach, and I know that it's really, in today's day and age, especially with the younger players, I guess they don't take well to things like that. They don't take well to a really stern coach, a really defensive-minded coach, a coach that's going to be all in your face, keeping it real with you and stuff like that. You look at what happened with the Knicks last year, and I only know what happens on the surface. I don't know what's going on in the locker rooms. But you look at the disagreement that what's his name, Mikal Bridges over in New York, over on the New York Knicks. The disagreement that he had with Tom Thibodeau. He was basically saying that, hey, you need to kind of relax with your coaching approach. You're playing us too many minutes. Play some more players, and things like that. And I got what he meant. But at the same time, I think that the Knicks would have been better off keeping Thibs. But, the thing with Thibs, and this is kind of what happened with the Bulls too, when you have a coach that's similar to Thibs or like a Scott Skiles, it usually seems that the players kind of, it only lasts for so long. You'll make the players better. They'll grow. They'll mature. They'll step up to the plate, especially on the defensive end. You'll squeeze more out of them than anybody else can. You'll have them overperforming. You'll have them overachieving, and things like that, which are all great qualities. But what you'll notice is eventually with coaches like a Scott Skiles, like a Tom Thibodeau, even though they're really good at getting the most out of their players, for some reason, the players seem to get burnt out by them. I don't know why that is. I mean, if it's me, I would love to be coached like that. I would love to have somebody keeping it real with me, being defensive minded, pointing out all the small details, taking the game of basketball seriously. I would love that. But a lot of these players nowadays, that's just not their approach. They don't like that approach. It's just not for them. So I think that's what would benefit this Chicago Bulls team. I'm not saying to go out and rehire Thibs or a Scott Skiles or something like that, but somebody similar to that though. Somebody who can be kind of hard nosed, stern, defensive minded, hold the players accountable, things like that. And that's what Thibs did. I mean, if Thibs could coach this team again, that would be great. I highly doubt that the Bulls would make that move, but I think that would be a great move, to even get a coach like that. That's just my take. Let me know what you guys think. And then another take that I have on that, when you look at the way the NBA is today, run and gun, shooting 53s a game, every team is playing identical basketball. And I don't think that is good for the brand of basketball. I really don't. Every team plays the same. Every team plays like Golden State used to play some years ago. Every team plays like the Phoenix Suns did some years ago. And it can be entertaining. It can be up and down, a lot of points scored, high scoring games, a lot of threes, a lot of fast breaks, a lot of dunks and stuff like that. But when you look at coaches like Eric Spoelstra, Tom Thibodeau, I know Thibs is not coaching right now. When you look at coaches like that, they don't really seem to buy into that. And I understand that the NBA is a business and things like that, and maybe that's why Thibs didn't survive. I don't think Thibs is really for all that. Like oh man, we're just gonna go out here and jack up threes and run and gun and stuff like that. Like no, they want to play the game the right way. They want to be defensive minded. They want to show up on both ends of the court. They want to play all 48 minutes of the game. They want to give it their all. And I don't think a lot of these players want to do that. And I'm not saying it's all of them, but I think many of them, enough of them, don't want to do it to the point where a lot of coaches, like a Thibs, like a Scott Skiles, a lot of people don't want to play for coaches like that. So we'll see what the Bulls do. I hope the best for Billy Donovan. Hopefully him and the Bulls can turn this thing around. But if not, which I can kind of see it coming, but we'll see. I think that the Bulls are going to eventually part ways with Billy Donovan. I think they're going to get another coach in here. And I think that the coach that they're going to get, I really hope that the Bulls, and I'm just assuming here, maybe Billy Donovan will be the coach of the Bulls for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know. But this is just my assumption, just my opinion. But what I hope the Bulls don't do is get some type of young, innovative coach or something like that. And it's like, yeah, it's cool. It sounds good on the surface, but things like that, it only lasts so long. You read these headlines, such and such gets fired. Such and such gets fired from coaching the NBA team. And then you'll find out who the replacement is, and then you'll find out what their philosophy is or what their approach is to the game. And oftentimes the headline reads like, oh, coach has a new innovative way to play the game. Coach has a creative way to spread the ball. And it's like, on the surface, those things sound good. They sound great. They sound entertaining. It sounds like a new scenery, a new change, especially if you didn't like your prior coach as a fan. You get rid of your coach and you're like, oh man, okay, so this guy's gonna come in and he's gonna change up everything for us. Everything is gonna be, man, this guy's lights behind me. It's like, whoa, goodness, man. Anyway, Um, but yeah, you have a lot of times coaches come in like that, and that type of play only lasts for so long. You know, you can only get so much out of that. So I know that the Indiana Pacers, they had success, playing a certain offensive game, but I don't know how much longer that can really be sustained. I really don't. I've seen an article the other day saying that the Bulls were trying to, basically copy off the Indiana Pacers play style, and it's like, why? You know, I just, the league has just become like a really big copycat league. And I remember, and if you're old enough to remember, if you've watched a lot of NBA games in prior years, you'll know that each NBA team used to have their own identity. Okay, you had the contenders, you had the people who were kind of on the edge of being contenders. You had your regular playoff teams. You knew that they would make the playoffs, but maybe not make too much noise in the playoffs. You had your teams that you knew would be fighting for a playoff spot, and then you had your teams that you just assumed were going to be, horrible teams for that season. But despite that, each team had their own identity. Yeah, it's unfortunate you had a couple teams that were just bad. They didn't really have an identity. They were just terrible teams. But for the most part, each team had an identity. You had your gritty teams, you had your defensive-minded teams, you had your teams that were more, space the floor more, shoot more threes. You had your teams that were really fundamental, like the San Antonio Spurs, when they had Tim Duncan and David Robinson, the Detroit Pistons. Just very fundamental, very much a half-court setting, very defensive-minded, and things like that. Man, this guy's lights behind me. It's crazy. Like, what in the world, man? Anyway, you had your young teams, like the Clippers from back in the day when they had D Miles and Quentin Richardson. Their identity was entertainment. Like, okay, we're gonna go out here, we're gonna throw a couple alley-oops, we're gonna entertain the crowd and stuff like that. And each team for the most part had their own individual identity. But now in the NBA, everybody just seems the same. Shoot threes, fast break, dunks. It's like, I can go on and on about this. I don't want to get too far off topic, but I don't know. I don't think that Billy Donovan is the coach for this team based off of what I'm seeing currently. I don't think that he's a terrible coach by any means. I mean, if he remains the coach of the Bulls for a long time after this, I would be kind of surprised, because I think you're only going to get so far with Billy Donovan. I think that he himself prefers to coach a team with at least one superstar player on it, which the Bulls do not have right now. So I think that when Billy Donovan has a player like that on his team, I think that his coaching skills would stand out more. Okay, because as currently constructed, this Chicago Bulls team is not really it's not really putting Billy Donovan's coaching abilities on full display. Which, he's a great coach. I think he can lead a team to a championship. It's just that when it comes to rebuilding a team, working with young players and missing that at least that one superstar player or multiple superstar players, I think that's what a challenge is for Billy Donovan. Because he's used to getting those types of players in college. A lot of players, especially back then, were going to, man, goodness gracious, this person's lights, man. Like, what is going on, man? Man, this guy. Yeah, but when you look at his career, Billy Donovan's career with Florida, and you see a lot of like top talent going to Florida, I think that that's a big reason why they won the NCAA championship 2 times, in 2006 and in 2007, because you had the top high school talent going to Florida. And then fast forward, when Billy Donovan chooses to coach the OKC Thunder, you have Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, 2 of the best players in NBA history on one team. And then, Billy Donovan's coaching skills stand out more, just like they did in Florida, because you have such a high level of talent. But I think where he gets exposed at, And it doesn't mean that he's a bad coach, but where Billy Donovan gets exposed at is when you put him in a position where he's in a rebuilding position. And I don't think that he's used to that. He's used to getting all of that talent at Florida. He's used to the talent that he had in OKC, but it just hasn't translated over to the Chicago Bulls team. And it's because I wouldn't even blame it all the way on Billy Donovan. I think that it's up to the Bulls front office to either get a superstar player in here or develop one of the players on the current roster to become a superstar player, which hasn't happened. I don't even know if you can say anybody has developed to a star level, just a regular star level. I mean, just keeping it real. You know, Bazelis has the potential. Kobe White has the potential. You know, but I mean, Josh. I think the closest that we've come is Josh Giddey. I think that's the closest. I would consider Josh Giddey a star player. Would I consider him a superstar player? No, not at all. At least not right now. Do they have the potential to be that? Yes. But right now, you know, especially with our recent struggles, I think that our only star player right now, and keep in mind, I don't mean superstar by this. Our only star player right now is just Josh Giddey, you know, and I think that that's making it it's making it challenging for Billy Donovan to coach a team like that, you know, because he's used to having those stars. So just imagine if, okay, Josh Giddey is already a star. Imagine if Kobe White could be a superstar player, but Zealous could be a superstar player. Oh man, now nobody would be talking about Billy Donovan's job. I guarantee you that. So that's just my take on that. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Hopefully this guy behind me changes lanes, because man, his lights are just bright for no reason. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. If you've already subscribed, feel free to share this video. Let's hope that the Bulls can turn things around. See red. Let's get it, y'all. Let's hope we get this win in our next game. Peace out. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Peace out. Thank you guys for watching.